Prime Minister Modi has concluded. A lot of deals from defense to space technology have been signed. A lot of areas of convergence, some points of divergence as well. To try and assess what this visit has achieved, I have with me Sadanand Dhume, fellow with the American Enterprise Institute. Thank you very much, and a columnist with the Wall Street Journal.
Good to be back on your show, Zaka.
All right, let's start with what is your assessment? It's been 3 days. We've seen all the pomp and ceremony and the grandeur, and we've also seen some of the substance, the defense deals, the space tech. What do you make of what's been achieved in this visit? What is your assessment?
I think it's a very significant visit, and I think this has probably exceeded expectations. And if you just look at both in terms of the symbolism and in terms of the substance, for example, this is not the Prime Minister's first address to Congress.
Yes.
But if you kind of saw the kind of enthusiasm that you had in that room yesterday, and you compared it to his last visit, I would say that it would be, even greater. So there was a lot of warmth, there was a lot of bonhomie. Clearly, the Prime Minister and President Biden seem to get along. And then there's an enormous amount of substance this time, right? I mean, you can add the caveat that they're going to actually have to work on delivering and making these things happen. But if you look at the specificity, right, if you look at the stuff like, jet engines and the space cooperation, semiconductors, you name it. So the scale and the breadth and the ambition, I think, is definitely a step up from what we've seen before.
So one of the things that, many commentators say, and I'm sure you have this view as well, is a lot of this is driven by the fear of China or to try and put a check on China. But officials on both sides say that's not a way to evaluate a relationship, that the Indo-US relationship currently and whatever it is going to achieve over the next few decades stands on its own. You reckon that China is driving India and U.S. closer together?
So, those are not contradictory statements, right? I mean, yes, the relationship stands on its own, right? I mean, the U.S. and India have about almost $200 billion of trade. They have a deepening defense partnership. They have deepening technology cooperation and so on. Nonetheless, I think the fact remains that the driving force, the reason why these two countries are so invested in improving their relationship, the sense of urgency that they feel now, is certainly driven by common concerns about China. Obviously, you can't expect, diplomats to be, bald about this. But the reality, as anyone here in Washington can tell you, is that there are very deep concerns of the Chinese, want to become a hegemonic power in Asia. That is obviously something that the United States would not like to see, and it's obviously something that India would also not like to see. So China has been the driving factor. This isn't something that happened yesterday. This has been the case for 20 years. That said, it's not the only factor, right? You've got other things going on. You have the fact that the Indian economy has become much more attractive to various companies compared to sort of, the old pre-liberalization days. You've got the existence of this very large Indian-American diaspora, 4.4 million strong.
Yeah.
Yesterday you had this sort of welcome ceremony at the White House, and I was thinking to myself that, well, how many world leaders would attract a group of people whose origins are from that country with such enthusiasm and so on. So you've got different legs. I'm not saying that the whole thing is just viewed through